BFHI in Australia and Indonesia. Andini is also a chief investigator in a successful MRRF, that's Medical Research Future Fund, Maternal Health and Healthy Lifestyle Grant. So at the end of the presentation, we will manage the Q&A with the audience. And now I like to invite Andini to start the seminar. Please, Andini.
Thank you, Pak Firman. Thank you, ANU Indonesia Project Committee, to the opportunity for me to present one of our project. Can you hear my voice okay? Okay, perfect. As mentioned by Pak Firman, today's title is Economic and Environmental Impacts of Commercial Milk Formula in Indonesia. And this study was co-authored by Nabila, Roger, Tuan, and Julie Smith. Before I begin, I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which I'm presenting today, the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people. And I would like to pay my respect to elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today. Okay. I have no conflict of interest to declare. Any images and brand names showed in these presentations are only for educational purposes, not endorsement. I will begin by describing about breastfeeding benefits, even though I'm quite sure that most of you are familiar with this. Breastfeeding benefits for mothers are helping to the uterus return to its normal size more quickly. Then it will reduce postpartum bleeding risk, a critical factor in maternal recovery. Beyond that, it lowers the risk of serious health conditions, including breast, ovarian, and uterine cancers. It also protects against postpartum depression, chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes, and high blood pressure. In short, breastfeeding is not just nourishment for the child, but it's also a natural health intervention for the mother. For the babies, breastfeeding is truly life-saving. It dramatically reduces the risk of infections like otitis media and diarrhea, sudden infant death syndrome, and necrotizing enterocolitis. It also reduces risk of overweight, obesity, and type 2 diabetes in childhood and later in life. And breastfed babies have better cognitive performance and higher IQ score. This chart shows how far we are from global breastfeeding targets. The red bars represent the 2030 goals. 70% of babies breastfed within 1 hour of birth, 70% exclusively breastfed for 6 months, and 60% still breastfeeding at 2 years old. But look at the gray bars there. Current rates are much lower, only 46% for early initiation and 48% for exclusive breastfeeding. These gaps matter because every missed target means higher health risk for mothers and babies and greater economic and environmental cost. This diagram is from the Lancet Breastfeeding Series in 2023. Explain why improving breastfeeding practices requires more than just telling mothers or supporting mothers to breastfeed. It's about addressing determinants at every level, structural factors, like workplace policies, health systems, family support, and sociocultural norms. And then on the right side, you can see the intervention needed, counseling, support. So in other words, breastfeeding success is not just mother's responsibility or individual choice, but it is also shaped by systems and society. So if we want early initiation, exclusive breastfeeding, and continued breastfeeding, we need coordinated actions across these layers. These are global recommendations from WHO for infant and young child feeding standard. The first one is early initiation of breastfeeding within 1 hour of birth for minimum 1 hour or 60 minutes. Second one, exclusive breastfeeding from birth until 6 months old, and then continue with complementary feeding or solid food from 6 months old, and then continue breastfeeding until 2 years old or beyond. This is another WHO recommendations to enable women to breastfeed their babies. So the first one is 10 steps to successful breastfeeding. It was launched in 1989 and it has been revised in 2018. Very subtle, but basically it encourages maternity facilities or hospitals to implement this policy to create environment to enable mothers and families to initiate breastfeeding and then continue breastfeeding after discharge. Then in 1991, WHO and UNICEF embedded this 10 steps policy into a program called Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative. It is an accreditation program. So every maternity facilities or hospital that is implementing 10 steps and undergo assessment, external assessment, and successfully pass the assessment, it will be awarded baby friendly accredited. So they will have this like plaque in their hospital. And these two in the middle and the right side is the newest guideline for the BFHI guidelines in the hospital. Another recommendation from WHO to encourage mother to create to enabling environment again. This is called International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitute. It was launched in 1981, so it's really a long time, even before I was born. And it's still, but it's only a recommendation from WHO, so every country needs to adopt that to their own laws and regulation. Uh, basically, this global framework sets clear rules. Companies should not advertise formula directly to parents, provide free samples, or use health professionals for promotions. So the goal is simple: ensure mothers make feeding decisions based on health information, not from marketing. But unfortunately, violations are widespread, especially online, and that's a major challenge for countries like Indonesia. So this is the latest status report of the implementation of the WHO code from the previous slides. This map shows that countries in dark pink are substantially aligned with the code, while lighter shades show partial or moderate alignment. And the gray areas have no legal measures at all. So it means that in many parts of the world, including some regions in Asia, formula marketing remains largely unchecked. This lack of enforcement creates an environment where aggressive marketing can thrive, undermining breastfeeding practices and public health goals. But I want to briefly describe something that probably not many of you are aware of, the risk of unnecessary infant formula milk supplementation. This graphic here just highlight the risk that we are not really familiar, because we understand the benefits of breastfeeding, but we don't really understand the risk of providing formula without medical indication. So some of the risks are increasing the chances of infections, high blood pressure, obesity, and even chronic conditions like diabetes later in life in babies. And for mothers, it can raise the risk of breast and ovarian cancer, postpartum complications, and cardiovascular disease. In short, every time breastfeeding is replaced without a medical reason, we're not just changing a feeding choice, but we're also introducing a long-term health risk for both mother and child. So maybe some of you then asking, why do formula produce then? Actually, WHO has already published a guideline. I think it's from 2006 or 5, I think. So medical reasons of formula supplementation mentioned by WHO can be divided into two conditions. The first one is infant condition. This includes very rare diseases. For example, like infants who should not receive breast milk or any other milk except specialized formula. What I mean by specialized formula is not the formula that we can see in the supermarket. It is something that we can only buy with a prescription from healthcare professionals. For example, galactosemia, maple syrup, urine disease, and phenylketonuria. The second one, infants for whom breast milk remains the best feeding option, but may need other food in addition to breast milk for a limited time period. For example, babies who born with very low weight, less than 1,500 grams, or born less than 32 weeks, and so on. For mothers, reasons include permanent or temporary avoidance. For example, HIV infection, that would be permanent. But now in some countries, we also have with very close supervision with the doctor, some mothers can also breastfeed their babies even though they're HIV positive. And the second one is temporary avoidance of breastfeeding, for example, herpes simplex type 1 and maternal medication and so on. So these exceptions highlight that formula should be a medical solution. So it's really, really in severe condition. So not a marketing-driven choice. So now we're going to Indonesia setting. We know that population is really large, more than 280 million people. And the latest data that I have from UNICEF 2017, exclusive breastfeeding under 6 months is 50.7%. But to be note that the definition of the exclusive breastfeeding is only the last 24 hours. It's different definition with the WHO one. And only 8% of government hospitals implementing the 10 steps as of 2011, because this is the latest data that we have in Indonesia. Regarding the regulations that we have, I only highlighted the few here that is directly related to breastfeeding. So we used to have peraturan pemerintah or government regulation number 33 year 2012. And regarding the 10 steps policy, it was mentioned in that regulation, and it has to be implemented in all maternity facilities. But now, last year, we have the new one, Government Regulation 28, number 28, year 2024. And sadly, it doesn't mention the 10 steps explicitly anymore. So we still don't know what will it impact the implementation in practice. Another two Ministry of Health regulation, Permenkes number 39 year 2013 regarding infant formula and other baby products, and also number 15 regarding administrative sanction. Sorry about that. So this chart here shows the baby food market is really booming in Indonesia. Sales are projected to reach over 42,000 billion rupiah. So next one, this is a report from IME. Okay, so this is the Breaking the Code report from Indonesia during the COVID-19 pandemic. We can see here some tactics marketing used to bypass the WHO code. This include direct selling to mothers, mobile applications, web articles and ebooks, and even podcast promotions. Notice the examples on the right. There's mobile apps and digital content designed to look like parenting advice, but actually serve as marketing tools. These strategies reach parents at vulnerable moments, often blurring the line between health information and commercial promotion. Another strategy that is being used is professional consultations and expert session on digital platforms. Brands like Nutricia create teams of healthcare professionals, even calling them a board of resilient, and make this consultation publicly available. During the pandemic, these companies expanded online education sessions, often featuring specialists like pediatricians, nutritionists, and midwives. This is also one big highlighted in the report, cooperation between breast milk substitute companies and government bodies. This is another study by IME. It's still unpublished. So we conducted online survey in August until September 2025. The findings are alarming. 60% of healthcare workers' recommendations for formula feeding were not based on medical reasons. Even more concerning, only 46% of mothers advised to continue formula feeding after discharge received proper guidance on dosage, preparation, and the risk of incorrect use. This highlights a critical gap in professional training and regulation, which can lead to unnecessary formula use and increased health risk. So for our study, we understand that breastfeeding is a zero carbon, zero water footprint food system, yet its economic and environmental value is often invisible. And globally, not breastfeeding leads to more than 500,000 child deaths every year. And environmentally, formula feeding in 6 Asia Pacific countries generates about 2.9 million tons of CO2 annually. So our study aims to analyze the economic environmental impacts of CMF marketed for infants in Indonesia.
Andini, are you okay to continue, or you think it's too hard?
Yeah, Pak Firman. I'm still drinking. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's. I think we.
I can continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take your
I
time.
will try my best to. I still have 17 minutes. I'm sorry about that. So this is the method that we use: a mother's milk tool, green feeding tool, and cost of not breastfeeding tools. So we estimate countries' production of human milk and carbon and water footprints. I will show you one by one of these tools, and you can scan this QR code here, and hopefully it still works, and you will it will take you to the website there. This is Mother's Milk Tool. So we launched it in 2022. It is part of collaboration between ANU and Alive and Thrive East Asia Pacific. So this is the method that we use in Mother's Milk Tool. So estimating the volume of production, lost milk, and monetary value based on the latest survey, 2017 DHS. This is also how we calculate the standard milk formula waste. And for the monetary value, we use market prices for unpasteurized donor human milk in Norway's milk bank. This is green feeding tools, the second tool. Again, this is a collaboration from ANU and Alive and Thrive. You can scan the QR code and then you can go calculate using the preloaded data or using your own data there. This tool highlights how breastfeeding supports sustainability by reducing reliance on formula production, packaging, and transportation. Green feeding tool. We have the preloaded data there, so you can only just click the country that you're interested to see, or you can use your own data. For example, if you don't trust with the data that is already loaded there, you can put your own data in the tool. This is the assumption that we use for the calculation. And last one is the cost of not breastfeeding tool. This one is actually pretty old, but it's still useful. It calculates the economic and health consequences when breastfeeding rates fall short of WHO recommendation. This is the methods of the cost of not breastfeeding tools here. Last one, in this study, we also calculate not only using the assumption that we have described previously, but we now also using the Euromonitor data or formula sales sold in Indonesia in 2020. So using those three tools, and then we put this numbers into that calculator. So these are the results when we use the preloaded data in the mother's milk tool in the middle column. And then when we calculate using the numbers from the Euromonitor data. Again, we did the same with the green feeding tools, what we had from the DHS, and also we calculated again with the Euromonitor data there. This is also for the cost of not breastfeeding tools. Last one, so the conclusion, breastfeeding is not only a critical health intervention, but also an economic and sustainable resource for Indonesia. The cost of replacing breastfeeding with commercial milk formula, both economic and environmental, are substantial, yet they often remain invisible in national statistic and policy discussions. The cost of not breastfeeding tool helps make these hidden costs visible by quantifying the economic losses to health system and the environment. Importantly, the tools we've discussed here are now featured in major international reports, including the FAO State of Food and Agriculture, and also the World Bank's 2024 investment framework for nutrition. This global recognition underscores the urgency of supporting breastfeeding as a cornerstone of health, sustainability, and economic resilience. So what we would like to recommend is that to include breast milk in national food balance sheets, so its contribution to GDP is accurately reflected. And this helps recognize breastfeeding as an economic resource, strengthen advocacy for breastfeeding, not only to improve public health, but also to advance environmental sustainability, and enhance regulation of commercial milk formula marketing while increasing breastfeeding support in maternity care settings by implementing the 10 steps. These steps can help address the hidden economic and environmental costs we've discussed and promote breastfeeding as a national priority. If you want to read the full article here, I've already put the QR code there. These are some of the references that I've mentioned, and thank you for your attention. Thank you, Pak Firman.
Thank you so much, Andini, for your thoughtful and insightful presentation and for briefing the cough. I hope you feel better very soon. And again, now it's time for the Q&A. I will open the floor for questions, and please submit your question via the Q&A functions. And I already see one question, and it is, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to read the first questions. Thank you. This is from Fendi Birowo from Jakarta. Thank you for your brilliant presentation, Andini. I have a question about this, actually in the context of sweetened condensed milk that has been badly advertised as milk. So unfortunately, the government censored bodies seem to shut their eye onto this mispractice by allowing this company to brand their product as milk. So I believe many poor and less educated people are the victim. What's your insight on it?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Pak Fendi. Yeah, I've seen this through our observation because I'm also volunteering with the Association Indonesian Breastfeeding Mother Association, or AIMI in Indonesia. Yes, this is also one of the problem that we find in everyday life. Some population in lower economics, they can't buy the proper proper formula, then they only can buy this one, condensed milk. We also have approached the BPOM. I'm not really sure what's in English, but they are the government body to regulate the regulation of the food, including the baby food, and we're requesting to evaluate this labeling in the product of the baby food, including this sweetened or condensed milk as well. What we do in IME is we have social media of with 200,000 followers. We educate them through social media as well as offline breastfeeding education classes. We try to inform them to raise their awareness that what kind of first we encourage them and enable them to and support them to breastfeed. But if they can't, what other alternative they can do? So usually that is what we do through IME. Yeah. Thank you, Pak Fendi. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you. And now we have a second question from Zara Dong, and she's going to ask you directly. Please, Sarah.
Hi, can people hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi. Sorry, I came in a bit late, but I just want to ask about, have you considered the time cost on mothers of breastfeeding? Because I think it's generally agreed, and in my own experience, breastfeeding is more time consuming than formula feeding, and also cannot be delegated to other people. So it's even economically, it's a significant cost. Have you considered that in your calculation of benefit and cost of not breastfeeding?
Thank you, Sarah, for the questions. In this study, the one that I presented today, I believe we don't calculate the mother's time, but I believe we have other studies, not mine. I mean, I found another study that also calculate mother's time on that. And I truly understand that it is really time consuming, and it's really it really drains mother's energy, especially the first few months after the birth. That's why we try to because usually the government only care about the numbers, the money numbers there. So we try to highlight that that breastfeeding also benefits in economic as well, if that makes sense. So even though we can see here in the maybe I can show you again what I mean by, if probably you missed that one. This one in mother's milk tool here. Yes, this one. You can also try this yourself, using the individual calculator there. This is the calculation that we use in mother's milk tool. We don't use I don't think we calculate the mother's time into this calculator, but what we try to make is to balance out from the cost of the mother's time with the while mother's doing her job, which is breastfeeding, she actually also doing a productive job, if that makes sense. So even though it's invisible, but it's actually produced economically, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. If that answers your question, Sarah.
So Sarah, please, if you want to follow up on that question?
Yeah, I can see your point. It's
Yeah.
just for the mothers. I feel like if you kind of frame everything saying it's beneficial to the planet, it's beneficial to the
Yes.
country, it benefits the children, but what about the mothers?
Yes, yes, I
About their
understand.
time, about their mental health, and
Yes, yes.
which that part seems to be not taken into
Yeah.
consideration.
Yeah, I understand. I totally understand that. It feels like every responsibility is put into mother's shoulder. I understand that. So that's why we developed these three tools in trying to uh not push the mothers, but push all the environments. I can show you again the diagram that I showed in the earlier here. So basically, breastfeeding is not only an individual decision, right? So it influenced by so many others external factors, including what you've just mentioned, the time and probably the family, the partner, the workplace, and hospital, health system, everything else. So what we're trying to do with these tools, at least we hope that we can push the other external factors there, and maybe the policymakers to show them that breastfeeding is not only like abstract thing with abstract benefits, health benefits. So we try to put numbers into it so that the governments can put more investment into other infrastructure that can enable the mother and the families. So we don't really push or force the mothers to do this because of it's good, but we try to create that environment. Those in the diagram. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we have another question online, but before that, I would like to challenge you a little bit, keep following up on Sarah's question, because once you want to calculate the economic cost of not breastfeeding, you would like to calculate the benefit of not breastfeeding. It's bad. It's as bad as it sounds like, which would be time use. So you actually want to have that numbers as well, because I see that in your last slide you make suggestion of contributing. How to we can calculate the value of breastfeeding into GDP or into other national statistics. But then I agree with Sarah. I think the other side of it, the benefit of not breastfeeding or the cost of the other side have to be calculated as well. You can comment on that or
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have that handy right now, but I believe I've read that somewhere in my EndNote library that the benefits of not breastfeeding, even though it looks real, but in longer term, it's actually burdening at least in level, it will burden in longer term actually. So yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I don't have the numbers.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you, thank you.
Now we move on to the next question. Gita, do you want to ask your question live? You can unmute your mic if you do. No? Okay. Okay, let me just read the question. Thank you, Mbak Andini, for your presentation. I learned a lot. Is there any local regulation, peraturan daerah, that you find contributed positively to breastfeeding practices in regions across Indonesia? So positive perda. And then another question is there any role of business chambers, Kadin, Apindo, on breastfeeding practices in factories or office space? Those are two questions from Gita.
Thank you, Mbak Gita, for the question. Perda, I think I've seen a few years ago, some local government have really, really supportive regulation towards breastfeeding. They have really clearly regulation how to encourage mothers to breastfeed, how to uh, enforce other environment that I mentioned in the diagram there to support and educate mothers and families to breastfeed. Yes, I think one of them is in Jawa Timur. I don't have it in on top of my mind, but I think it's like Lamongan or Lumajang. I'm not sure, but I can get back to you if you need more information on that one. But not all local government have that kind of regulation, unfortunately. Also, local regulation during specific settings, for example, like during disaster. They also, some local government also have very supportive regulation. For example, like limiting the donation of formula milk to the impacted area, because they in the impacted area they don't have access to clean water. They usually don't have the electricity to make formula milk. Again, I think there's only like one or two local government that have this regulation. Role of business chambers, Gadin Apindo. I think not really, because this, so far as I know, from IME, we also provide support to staff or employees to advocate to their employer, but not through Gadin or Apindo. Uh, but we do have approach as well from other dinas, like Dinas Kesehatan and other. But it also depends on the volunteer in each IME branch as well. Because as you know, IME have like in um, provinces and also kabupaten and kota level as well. So yeah, it will depend on those uh, how active they are approaching the authorities as well. Yeah.
Okay. I hope that question is answered. And I so I don't see does anybody else. Okay, that's another question from Dewi. And I just read this for you. Thank you, Mbak Andini, for great presentation. I'm just curious whether the fact that mother needs nutritious food is also considered. Because among breastfeeding mothers, we used to joke how we ordered more food from Grab or Gojek during breastfeeding. Does it mean it increases carbon footprint as well?
Yes.
Good question.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mbak Dewi, pertanyaannya. Yes, we included that in our calculation, in the green feeding tool calculation. So we have compared between mothers with normal diet, vegan diet, and then like normal diet, we have like eating with meat, red meat, and so on. Yes, we calculate that as well. And the results is even though uh, breastfeeding mother eats more, need more calorie from the food, the carbon footprint is still less than if the mother provide formula milk to the babies. And it also not only from our study, but before our study, before the green feeding tools, it was from IRIS study, I think. Uh, but I don't have it in my slides. But in that IRIS study, it they also really calculate between those diet as well. So yes, it is calculated in our study, in the calculation. Thank you, Mbak Dewi.
Just to clarify, that means carbon footprint is calculated also from the food purchased outside, or actually, as example from Dewi, it's also from the Grab, increased use of Grab and Gojek.
The transport, I
Yeah.
don't think we use, but we will calculate through the life cycle assessment, LCA. So from the production, from the farm, so we have the numbers for that actually. I think so from the farm, and then from the farm, and then transport to the supermarket, and so on until we eat the food. And yeah, we calculate all that. Yes.
Thank you. So I don't see any more question, but I do. So I have one question, while probably others are thinking about their own. So there are many things that goes into this tool, the calculation. And one of these, I think the cost in one of the tools, you mentioned that it also calculates the health system cost. And does it mean, can you elaborate that? Does it mean the cost of not breastfeeding because of diseases, and how you estimate that cost, if those costs are included? Take your time.
Okay, Pak Firman, I'm really sorry. This is really
And
annoying.
that's no questions.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So yes, it is calculated through the disease that can be avoided if the baby is breastfed. I can share again the slides here. Oh gosh. So yes, this is, I think in the paper also we mentioned what, not only the paper but in the tools they mention about the disease that is calculated, that is used for the calculation as well. I hope that answers the question, Pak Firman. I'm really sorry. This is so annoying.
And I think we have to let you go. And sorry of and thank you so much for taking your time despite your situation. So then I would like to thank everyone for attending this ISG. And we hope to see you again at another ISG. Thank you so much, Andini. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Firman, Pak
Bye,
Aco.
everyone.